Okay, so for example 6 here, we're gonna take a look at points and how to use the multiple inputs on the VOP and how to do math with them basically. So what I've done here is I've created 2 points. As we remember, points have the 2 main attributes is ptnum and position. And the position of these 2 points are for the position 1, my main point that I want to keep and use and work on. It has the position 0.1 in X, 1 in Y, and 0.2 in Z. The second point has the position 1.2 in X, 1.5 in Y, and 0 in Z. Now, let's pipe the first point into the first input to the VOP. This means that this is going to be our main point that we want to use, we want to work on, we want to keep. This is the point that's going to go in and also go out in the output the output of the VOP, all right? The second point, we're going to pipe to the second input. This means that this is the point that we don't really care about, but we still want to use the attributes on this point, and we want to modify the first point using this point, okay? So this is our main point, this is our secondary point. Let's go into the VOP and see what we can do. So in here, as you remember, we have all the attributes here. We have the position, we have the velocity, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we have now piped the position of the first point. Remember, this is the input of the first point. Everything here, except for these 4 last ones, always refer to the first point, okay? So, the first point's position is piped into the position on the geometry output, okay? What I want to do now, I want to use the position of the second point to add on to my point here, to the first point. How can we do this? Well, first of all, we need to import the point and the point attributes on this point. So what we can do is we can type import and we can go down to point, import point attribute. We're going to drop that down. As remember, these are the inputs. So this is input 1, this is the input for our main point. Input 2, this has our secondary point. We can pipe that to the file on the import point, okay? This means that now we're working here on the second point, and we can do things with it to modify our first point. And what we want to do is we want to add the position from this point into the first point. We're gonna drop down on add, we're gonna put it here. So the first point input is from our original position or our original point, goes into the first add input. The second input, we're gonna put this. We're gonna make sure that the import point from the second input is importing a vector. It is, and it's importing the position, the P. We could essentially import any attributes from this point, and we can import any like integer, or string, array, or matrix, anything we want, and we can define any name here. But what we want to import is the position of the second point, because we want to add the second point's position into the first point's position. So that's essentially what we've done here. We have a vector going in here, we have a vector going in here. This vector gets added to this vector, and this is output to the position. So let's see if it worked. Let's now visualize the VOP and see what happens. As we can see, our point is here. So if we take a look at the first point, the first point is here, all right? And the second point is there. And our point is now here, which means that we have added this position onto this position, which means our current position should be 0.2 plus 1.2. So in X, 1.4, all right? In Y, it should be 1 plus 1.5, which means 2.5. In Z, it should still be 0.2, since 0.2 plus 0 is 0.2. Let's see if this is the case by going to the geometry spreadsheet. And voila, we can see it. 1.4, 2.2, 2.5, and 0.2. So that worked. So that's kind of how you can use the multiple inputs. You can do much more complicated things, and you have all 4 of them at your disposal. So yeah, this is very useful, and I use it all the time. Anyway, thank you guys. See you next tutorial.